Hello everyone, a warm welcome to my video. My name is Basim. I am here in front of you presenting my assignment on the course Legal Risks in Business at Trent University. First of all, I'm going to thank my professor, Mr. Lucas Tong, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. The topic of my presentation is about finding two interesting business laws in other countries other than Canada, which will affect the Canadian firms who are willing to expand to other nations. So without further ado, let's start. So I have chosen two interesting laws from two different countries. They are China and Portugal. And the first law that I have chosen is from China. It's the land use law for foreign investors in China. And the second law I have chosen is about the labor law in Portugal. So let's talk about China. So as all know, China is world's largest manufacturing superpower, and the GDP growth of China is 4.4%, and the per capita GDP of China is 9,020 US dollars. They have many industries including IT, agriculture, finance, real estate, insurance, and construction. China's legal system may seem pretty easy from the outside, but for international organizations who are willing to establish in China, it's not an easy task to get grip on the China's legal system. So let me show you a video about China's economy.
China is the world's second largest economy and the biggest importer. But 40 years ago, it was a poor, largely rural nation, with at least 30% of its population living in poverty. That started to change in 1978, when China launched major economic reforms. The first were agricultural. Farmers were allowed to sell their surplus crops on the open market. Success in agriculture and more open trade led to the privatization of other state-owned enterprises. In 1980, China became a member of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. That's the same year it created 4 special economic zones to encourage foreign direct investment. As the economy opened up to the outside world, companies flooded into China to build factories and take advantage of cheap labor. Stock markets in Shanghai and Shenzhen opened in 1990. Economic growth boomed the following decade, averaging 10% a year. More than 500 million people have been lifted out of poverty since China's economic reforms began. It's been called an economic miracle, and one the global economy has come to depend on.
So that was about China's economy. Now let's talk about the law. The law I'm going to talk about is China's land use law. In China, there is an interesting law declaring that foreign companies cannot own a land. Since China is a socialist country, the entire land is owned either by government ownership or collective ownership. So the urban areas in China, the urban land in China is owned by the government, and the rural areas is owned by collective ownership. The only way foreign investors can use land is through acquiring land use right. So typically the land in China that is owned by government is owned by foreign investors using this land use right, which is a lease program which extends until 70 years. So it's a lease amount that companies have to pay to the government, which lasts around 70 years. And also regarding the building right and the land right, they have completely different laws. So in the once a land is leased by a company, for example, if it's a real estate company or a developer company, a construction company, if they are building a residential building, there is limitation in China to finish this construction within the 2 years. If this is not finished by 2 years, the Chinese government will revoke their rights. So, so the Canadian firms who are looking to expand to China, especially the real estate firms and the construction firms who are looking to expand to China, it will be a really strenuous pathway for them to establish their infrastructure in China. So this is a major imperative law related to business that Canadian firms should keep in mind while expanding their business to China. So now I'm going to show a small video regarding this land use in China.
All the land. In China, you can't actually own land. You can own a house on the land, but the land is the property of the government or the property of a collective. Under the property rights law, you can get a lease on the land, and that could last 70 years and then be renewed. If you sell the house, that lease is then transferred to the new owner. To make this clearer, here's what a Chinese landlord said about owning property in China. You can't own land, but you can own a land use right. Once you have a land use right, you can sell it on the open market to whoever wants it, and the land use right is good for 70 years. No one is quite sure what happens once the land use right expires. He also talked about something interesting, and that was why China has so many so-called ghost cities. In China, you might come across lots and lots of buildings that are empty. The reason is, if you win the right to build on some land, the government wants you to build on it within 2 years, or you will lose the right. The thing is, some of the developers seem to have been hasty and the properties.
That's all about the land use law in China. Now let's talk about the second law. It's the labor law in Portugal. Before talking about the law, let me talk about Portugal. Portugal is a developed European nation, and the GDP of Portugal is 231 billion US dollars, and the population growth rate is 0.2% annually, and the unemployment rate is 8.1%. Portugal is really known for the industries like agriculture, IT, cement manufacturing, petrochemical, chemical industries. Portugal is considered as one of the safest countries in the world according to the Global Peace Index. Now let me show you a video regarding Portugal's economy.
A southern European country bordering Spain, Portugal is a growing economy that has been expanding at a steady rate. The currency used within the country is the euro since its inception, as it is a part of the eurozone. Along with the warm beaches, the major attraction for the city is the architecture that dates back to the 1500s. The nation is ranked 42nd in the Global Competitiveness Report by the World Economic Forum. The majority of the trade by Portugal is done among the countries falling under the European Union. Though the nation was impacted adversely by the financial crisis in 2008 that slowed down the economic growth greatly in 2011-13, there has been an inverse in the trend, showing positive changes since. A gradual fall in the unemployment rate accompanied by the growing economy has led to Portugal being a well-developed economy today. The nation is also home to many notable companies ranging from various sectors and industries. At the same time, the nation's education system is highly modernized, with students in Portugal lying significantly higher than the OECD's average. The financial crisis. With all countries in the EU facing a debt crisis in 2008, Portugal was an economy that got adversely impacted, leading to national debts and financial crisis. The impacts of the crisis were first noticed in 2010, with its effects lasting until 2013. One of the major contributors to the crisis was the bankruptcy of the major Portuguese banks. These banks had accrued massive debts in the millions and were also under fire for many unethical activities such as illegal gains, false asset management, among others. Along with other factors such as budget slippage with public-private partnerships and losses for swaps, the effects of the crisis became severe, leading to a financial bailout from the EU amounting to $115 billion. Since then, the economy of Portugal has been steadily recovering starting from 2014, accompanied by a gradual rise in the GDP.
That's the video about Portugal's economy. Now let's get into the law. The first law is that it's a law related to termination of employees. So there is a law stating that companies cannot terminate employees. There is no termination time period in the nation's regulation, and termination cannot be done But resignation is the only possible solution for this. For this, the employees should resign by themselves, and the company should offer them good compensation pay to legally to get the employees out of the company. This can be one of the important rules that a Canadian firm needs to keep in mind while expanding to Portugal. And also recently in Portugal, they have implemented a new labor law. There is one more important law that's regarding this is that this law, the employees cannot contact their employees outside the working hours. This is a major law recently implemented by the Portugal government, and according to this law, the company should also pay for their gas, electricity, internet bill, and the companies cannot legally contact or get in touch with the employees after the work hours. So this law may backfire many remote working companies or industries, especially the IT sectors who tries to give remote working opportunities, but this may bring them back to the office. So this regulation is a really imperative regulation that Canadian companies who are going to expand to Portugal need to keep in mind. So I'm going to play a video regarding this new law. That's about the video, and that's about the two interesting laws. And I think I have discussed this pretty much well, and these are the references I have referred to. And thank you everyone for listening to this video. And if you have any doubts regarding this law, you can comment down the video. So thank you everyone. Have a nice day.